Hello. Happy hump day. I hope you guys are doing well. Um, we're continuing on the Hayden book today. So I'm really excited. And then we have Lindsay Clancy. So that's also a case that we've been covering pretty much every day. Hi Debbie. Hi Patty. Crease. Hello, hello. Jerry. Did I say Debbie? Hi Debbie. Thank you for being here. Please make sure y'all tap the like button. I'm reading the book. I think it's important to read the book. I do just want to say that she wanted it out there, and I think it's a great way to remember her by. It was really special to her. So I am reading it. I did reach out to the publisher, so there's that. I just want to make sure. And also her death is still being investigated. So RIP to Hayden. We did do part one of this book already. So if you missed that, definitely make sure you check it out. It should be on the Hayden playlist. And hello, Anthony. I also do want to say we will be commenting on it throughout as we read it. So it's not just a straight read through. We are going to be talking about it and speaking about it. So there's that. Let me pull it up. Yes, yes. Please make sure you also have your notifications on. So when we do Lindsay Clancy later, if you are following that case. Hello, Rycast. Good to see you. Thank you for being here. Let's get started. I'm excited. This was it's a really, really good book. We left off on chapter 9. Remember the Titans. Okay, here we go. She says, I couldn't contain my excitement as I headed down to Georgia to film Remember the Titans. This was a high priority Walt Disney film with an Oscar winning star and a producer known for creating action packed blockbusters. The script was brilliant, the crew was seasoned, and the director, Boaz Yaskin, was poised to become one of Hollywood's most bankable directors. It was also my big first live action film, and it was a great film. I still get chills when I watch it. During our first cast meeting, though, all I could do was stare at the young, muscular guys who were portraying the infamous Titans football team. Wow, I said to my mom, if this is who I'm working with, put me in, coach. What I don't think I or anyone realized was that at 10 years old, I'd been a working actor longer than most of the people in the film. I might have been motivated by nerves, but I could hold on my own when I had to, and I worked hard at my job. Plus, I was brimming over with excitement about meeting so many new people. I'd read the script dozens of times, and as far as I was concerned, I wasn't stretching 1 inch to become Cheryl Yost. Denzel Washington was expected to carry the film, which was no surprise. He'd been nominated for an Academy Award several times and had won as Best Supporting Actor in 1992 for Glory, and all of us at that cast meeting felt more than honored to be working with him. Mom's number one job on any set was to protect me and make sure people respected my work. So as soon as she got a chance, she walked over to him to introduce me. I might not have I might not have anywhere close to the billing he did, but we had plenty of scenes together and she wanted him to think of me as something other than just some kid. Mr. Washington, my mom said, this is my daughter Hayden. She's playing Cheryl Yost. Denzel was seated with his head down. He took his time to look up. It's nice to meet you, Hayden, he said, with that serious, gravely voice of his. I look forward to working with you. The conversation stopped there. This was a big surprise because if anyone could keep a conversation going, it was me and mom. When we walked away, I could tell something wasn't sitting right with mom. I guess I feel bad for disturbing him, she said. He looked like he was deep in whatever method or process he's going through to prepare for his role. And Herman Boone's not an easy character. This film is about racism, and that's a very intense, sensitive subject. As filming started, Denzel's manner didn't change one bit. I don't know if it was his credentials or his personality, but he carried himself with a certain austerity that forced me to take him seriously. Not that I didn't do that already. He occupied his own intense space because that's how he created his character, and everyone knew to respect it. One of our biggest scenes together involved Denzel as Herman Boone coming to the Yost house hoping to talk to my dad, Bill. Boone had just taken my dad's head coaching job, so Cheryl was no fan of his. When the script called for Cheryl to open the door, my plan was to stare daggers at Denzel and growl, "What do you want?" Like some young, ferocious creature capturing her den and everyone in it. Cheryl was fiercely loyal to her, something I could relate to, and she had no time for Herman Boone. The camera started rolling, and the director called, "Action." Knock, knock. I reached for the doorknob and clenching my jaw and narrowing my eyes as I readied myself to say my big, mean lie. And as I opened the door, there stood Denzel with his mouth open and his tongue sticking out. "Cut," the director called. Denzel did the same routine at least 5 times, and each time the grip on my professionalism slipped farther away. We were fast friends from there on out. There were footballs scattered everywhere around the set, and between take, Denzel and I tossed a football back and forth like I was one of his kids. Sometimes the handsome football players joined in, and that made the game even more fun. The entire cast and crew, and especially Will Patton, who was one of the kindest, most soulful people I've ever met, treated me like an equal the entire movie. I was far and away the youngest on the set, but I felt like I was one of them. I could communicate with them, even without words or football, because they were working actors just like me. They understood how hard it was to balance an all consuming job with the rest of your life, and they were exhausted, yet exhilarated at the end of each day, just like I was. Mom was treated as an equal too, which can be unusual on a set. We've all heard rumors about stage moms, but during the scene where Cheryl visits Jerry, a football player who suffered partial paralysis after a crash, Boaz Yakin let mom stand by him and coach me. He even listened to her opinions about the best take. "She should probably be crying in this scene," mom said to him. Boaz frowned. "I'm not sure about that," he answered. Mom shook her head. "No, she should be. Trust me. This is a take you want." Guess which take made the final cut? When an actor gets older, people begin to have expectations about what and how much they can deliver. With each TV show, commercial, or film, those expectations become higher, and you have to meet them even when it seems impossible. If you don't, you get terrible reviews or get passed over for the next job. During Remember the Titans, everyone's expectations for me were low because I was a kid, so they were in awe when I delivered, and I was forgiven when I messed up. I hadn't found myself in that sweet spot before, and I haven't again. I also related to Cheryl so much that she made me feel powerful, and that confidence made her character come alive. As Cheryl, I was strong and authentic, and on Remember the Titans, I was the happiest I'd ever felt as an actor. If I could go back and do it all over again, I would in a heartbeat. That's a great. I have not seen that Denzel movie, Glory, but I do love Denzel Washington. He's a great actor. Let me put. I can put chat up. Hey Velvet. Hey Insta. Hey Nini. Um. Okay, that was chapter 9. Let's jump right into chapter 10. Panic. After A Bug's Life and Remember the Titans, I was on Hollywood's radar and auditions for major movies and TV shows started to roll in. I was so busy that I had to leave Guiding Light behind, and I said goodbye to Lizzie Spaulding in the fall of 2000. It was bittersweet. The cast had become like a family to me. But after cancer, child abuse, involuntary manslaughter, and a handful of alleged felonies that were never prosecuted, I was eager for a part that didn't involve illness, jail, or death. Hollywood had other plans, except for, say, Macaulay Culkin. Most 12-year-olds in 2000 didn't call the shots in their movie careers, and I was no exception. Auditions came my way, and I went after them. Then a huge script landed, a major motion picture with an A-list director and a meaty part for a scrappy, tough as nails preteen who wasn't afraid to get physical. Mom knew I was perfect for it. All I had to do was send in an audition video of me collapsing on the floor, writhing, moaning, and gasping during a 30-second full body seizure. This audition was going to make my guiding light chemotherapy seems like a walk in the park. I know this is not the lighthearted comedy you want, but this movie will make your career, my agent said. If they cast you, you'll be starring with Nicole Kidman. Let me repeat that. Nicole Kidman. Nicole Kidman was fresh off filming Moulin Rouge and fresh out of her marriage to Tom Cruise, and she was one of the most talented, bankable actresses in the world. Moulin Rouge hadn't even been released yet, but she was already seen as a sophisticated, coolly emotional, regal presence in whatever film she signed onto. She could sing, she could dance, she was gorgeous, and no matter what role she took on, she made it her own. She was also one of my favorite actors in the world. I figured lighthearted parts could wait. So while mom filmed, I threw myself to the floor, seized up, curled my toes, and withered in agony for 30 seconds straight. Then mom packed up the tape and shipped it off to my agent. The film was Panic Room, and it was a brainchild of David Fincher, who was coming off the blockbuster success of the psychological thriller Seven and Fight Club. He'd filmed Fight Club in around 200 different locations, and it had exhausted him so much that he wanted his next movie to be the opposite. He needed predictable, tight, and claustrophobic. On one stage in Los Angeles, Panic Room would tell the story of a single mother and her daughter who would escape in their Upper West Side brownstone panic room when three men invade their home. It was an amazing premise. I just needed to learn what a panic room was. It's a secret room in your house that's closed off from the outside with no windows, Dad said. You go in there to hide during a home invasion or, I don't know, a zombie apocalypse. Of course, if there's a fire, you're dead. This part really was perfect for me. Not only did Nicole Kidman have long curly hair like me, but I'd be playing another tough yet emotional part. The film was nonstop intensity, and because of my work on soaps, I learned how to dial up tension and play off other characters. On Guiding Light, every drama pivoted among several different characters, their energy shifting in relation to one another. I've been told that even when I'm not acting, I have a palpable energy when I'm up. When I'm up, it's like the sun has come out from behind the clouds. When I'm down, everything feels dark. As an actor, Nicole Kidman is much the same. I thought we were a match made in heaven. Movie heaven. David Fincher had liked my work in Remember the Titans. If I got the part, I'd play a diabetic preteen named Sarah. Nicole Kidman would play her mother, Meg, who was recently divorced and looking for a fresh start in our new home. When three men invade the house looking for the 3 million they know is hidden under the floorboards, Meg and Sarah retreat into the panic room. They think they're safe, but soon discover that the room doesn't have a working phone. Worse, Sarah doesn't have her insulin. That's where the seizure I put on tape came in. The producers and David Fincher loved my audition. When my agent called me to say I got the part of Sarah, I felt like my chest might explode with happiness. Before filming started, mom and I packed up and moved to Manhattan Beach, just south of LA, where the set was located. Mom rented a Chrysler Sebring convertible, which she did every time we went to LA, and we drove south along the beach with the top down. I met Nicole Kidman, who was delightful and even taller than I thought she'd be. Though, truth be told, I'm 5'2" on a good day. To me, everyone is tall. Nicole and I began camera tests, and I went into costume fittings, hair, and makeup trials to create a look for my character. I even made plans for playdates with Nicole's children, Isabella and Connor, who are 3 and 5 years younger than me. I prayed that Nicole and I would fall into our roles as if been born to play mother and daughter. The script was intense and the acting was physical, and with every line in every scene, I committed to memory. I felt more and more exhilarated. This went on for 2 glorious, jam packed weeks until one afternoon, Nicole hurt herself on set. No one, least of all me, knew what was going on. Nicole Kidman injured her knee, Leslie, she said. Please tell Hayden that I am so sorry, but Nicole's pulling out of the film. I didn't hear a word of the conversation, but from the set of mom's jaw, I could tell things weren't good. Apparently, Nicole injured herself while she was filming Moulin Rouge, the assistant director continued. And yesterday she aggravated that same injury. It's a hairline fracture, meaning she needs to be off her feet. What happens now? Mom asked. We're trying to decide whether to stop filming and wait for her or hire someone else. It's up to the studio now with Nicole's blessing. Mom hung up the phone and told me everything. My heart was crushed. The waiting game began the next morning and continued for a few tense days. Soon, the studio announced it was looking for other actors to replace Nicole, but they weren't optimistic. All the big leading ladies were tied up in other projects, although there was a possibility that Angelina Jolie might be free. I thought it would be amazing if two girls were from Sneden's Landing ended up in the same film. Maybe they could even replace Dwight Yoakam with Bill Murray in the role of one of the three home invaders, so we could have a proper Rockland County reunion. Mom and I flew home so I could go back to school, but we understood I might have to return at a moment's notice. I was uneasy every morning when I woke up. Like most children, I like a solid routine, and not knowing which coast I'd be on the next day was disconcerting. I also knew this role was a gift, and I was chomping at the bit to play it. It really felt like my entire future hinged on this film. Then we got the call. Jodie Foster would be replacing Nicole Kidman in the part of Meg. I was overjoyed, even as happy as I'd been about Nicole Kidman. Jodie Foster was one of my favorite actors, and I could relate to her because she'd been working since she was a kid, just like me. People have said we looked like each other because both of us were small and strong. She brought quite a force that balanced out my ability to convey big, hard emotions. I told myself it was a great match. I couldn't wait to play her daughter. Mom and I were supposed to fly back to Los Angeles as soon as possible so we could start filming. I was ready, more than ready, but the next morning, Mom woke me up with some news. Honey, I have something to tell you about the movie. The producers want to move on to someone else. They're just not sure you look enough like Jodie Foster. I was speechless. I did look like Jodie Foster. Not just that I'd not just that, but I'd earned that part. How could anyone take that away from me? They're going with an actor named Kristen Stewart. I'm sorry. In the years later, some media reported that I dropped out of the film before Nicole did, and even before filming began. It was the other way around. Once Nicole was gone, I was out too. I never got an explanation as to why, and at that time I accepted it, even though I was incredibly sad. I told myself that parts are like trains, that there will always be another one coming down the tracks. I tried to convince myself that this was meant to be, even though it tore me up. Years later, my former manager told me the real reason why I was dropped from the film. The director spoke to Mom about cutting my hair so I would look more like Jodie Foster, who always rocked a great bob. Mom said no. It was a deal breaker. Panic Room went on to gross 197 million worldwide. No. You know how I feel about her mom. We have been covering the death of Hayden Panettiere, because it's important and I'm a big fan of her. But that is so messed up. That stupid interview. We're gonna play it too. I have it pulled up because this isn't just a book reading. We're gonna talk about her case and um watch everything that comes out with that. Wow. It was a big hit. I don't think I've ever seen it. I really don't. Has everyone that was a lot of money, and you know what? Couldn't let her get a haircut and to lie to her. Okay, let's keep it so for real. Hayden basically said in that interview with Jay Shetty that her mom basically used her for money and didn't want her for anything other than money. She didn't want to have a relationship with her. And so Hayden started at 11 months, right? Was it 11 months or 8 months? I think it's 8 months. Oh, I can't remember, but I know I said it in another live. It's one of the 2. She started filming that when she was a baby. And she says that her mom just, wanted her for the money pretty much. I mean, that's what I took from that interview. And her mom just came out and gave another interview and was like, "No," she basically had issues. And I was like, no. Everyone knows that her mom was like a stage mom and was not good to Hayden. And I know I shouldn't be bashing her, but it's the truth. And Hayden even said it in her um interviews all the time. Yeah, that new interview is so sad. Her mom makes it sound like her death is about her. I recommend the movie. It's intense. I haven't seen it since it came out. I watched it. It was a really good movie. Mm, we should watch it right now. I need to clip these videos anyways, so it's fine to take a break. Um, I've seen reviews on this and they're wild. People go in on her, and as they should, as I will probably too, because you know what? I don't want to hear it. Yeah, she lost two children, but like you weren't good to Hayden. So I don't know why you're sitting up there acting like you were and taking no accountability for your actions.
It's a process, and I think it will probably hit me later on. I would say to the haters out there, you don't have a right to tell me how I mourn the loss of my second child. That's my domain.
This is not what I envisioned her to look like, by the way. Like, I did not I don't know why. I'm not shaming, but I just didn't expect this because Hayden is so beautiful. I'm a little shook. Also, like, why is her ugly soul peering out from the inside? Like, do you see what I'm saying? She used Hayden. Yeah, Nene. Hey, Vicky. Um, she looks like she's a singer for non-blondes 50 years later. That's one way to put it. Listen. Hey, Melissa, glad you made it. She's an epic fail. Yo, okay, let's watch this. It really pisses me off, though.
Leslie Vogel, grappling with grief after losing both her adult children in the last few years, opening up about the moment she got the news that her daughter, actress
That is
Panettiere,
not, respectfully, that is not the same person sitting in this interview. This is one of those, like, MK Ultra, like, the Illuminati, like, type shit. You know what I'm saying? The demonic forces of Hollywood coming through. That is a clone. That is not her. I don't even think that looks like her in this interview. Does she? Let's see.
And she got the news that her daughter, actress Hayden Panettiere, had died in a South Carolina apartment last week at just 36 years old.
What was that moment like for you?
What the heck?
I was numb. I was just numb. I just couldn't feel anything. I still am not grasping this as real. It just doesn't feel real. My mind tells me it's not at times. You know, it's going to be a process. I need a minute, guys.
According to the police report, Hayden's on and off again boyfriend, Brian Hickerson, and his brother, Zach, were also at the apartment when she was found. Police say the brothers called 911.
Having cardiac arrest, CPR is in progress.
Authorities say their preliminary investigation points to no evidence of foul play, but the DEA has now joined the case. Brian had previously pleaded no contest in 2021 to felony charges of injuring a partner connected to incidents involving Hayden. According to Leslie, the relationship with Brian accelerated in 2018 after Hayden handed over custody of her then 4-year-old daughter, Kaya, to her ex-fiance, Vladimir Klitschko.
The situation with Hayden and Vlad and their daughter, that was a very difficult period for her. Vlad had taken over custody, for safety. In my opinion, that was the catalyst that she just couldn't keep those demons away. I think she struggled, and Brian came into her life. She was vulnerable.
The mother-daughter duo intertwined personally and professionally from the time Hayden first appeared on screen, first starring in commercials at just 11 months old.
I'm so happy.
At 8, she had a recurring role in the soap Guiding Light.
I had to do it, Daddy. I had to.
And earned a Grammy nomination 3 years later for voicing Dot in A Bug's Life.
Dot, Yes, Mother.
What did I tell you about trying to fly?
Not until my wings grow in.
But her breakout role came in the hit sci-fi series Heroes.
There's no burns.
Oh, I'm always nice.
Hayden then starring as a country pop star in Nashville, earning her 2 Golden Globe nominations.
This is one of my faves. This is from In the Limousine on the way to the premiere of A Bug's Life.
Leslie sharing several photos of Hayden's early life with us.
You said people don't know the truth about your and Hayden's relationship. What was the truth about your relationship?
I would say Hayden had a very happy life up until she got Heroes at 16. So here she was, the star of a major TV series. But I would say at about 17, I started seeing her going downhill. As she got older, then it wasn't my voice anymore. I wasn't in charge of her choices. I tried to give her the best advice I could. But again, you know, any young person, teen, they want to be liberated. And I get that. I did get that.
Hayden and her mom were estranged in the star's final months. 1 year ago, her mom says she went to stay with Hayden to help her. She said Hayden wanted out of her relationship with Brian.
She knew that Brian was toxic. She knew she had to get him out of her life.
Hayden had talked about that relationship on the Tamron Hall show earlier this year.
This is during the peak of abuse, and that's how I was processing it and handling the anxiety. And addicts want a quick fix.
You were in a relationship.
Oh, wow.
The person, number of public incidents, arrests, and painful moments, and you were self-medicating through this pain.
It wasn't just physical, it was manipulative. The psychological abuse that she was enduring. And
This is so sad.
He seemed very charming at first, which was very, it made it very easy to pull the wool over someone's eyes.
After pleading no contest to felony abuse charges, Brian recently told TMZ he had regrets, but they were still friends.
I went into such a dark place, man. Drugs, alcohol.
Oh,
abuse.
brother.
Good God almighty.
But Vogel says things
Between Brian and her mom,
took a turn during her time with Hayden last year. After about 6
sad
weeks
for her.
together, she noticed Hayden pulling away, so she went back to her home in Florida.
What made you leave? What happened
Well,
between the two of you?
when I got the phone call from her saying, I'm going to be with the person I love. And I said, I just lost it. I lost it. I could not believe that she had gone that far back, that he had been successful in reeling her back in with all of the things he had done to her.
Vogel says Hayden was seeing Brian again. She gave Hayden an ultimatum on the advice of her therapist.
I basically said, if you are accepting Brian back into your life, I cannot be in your life. I cannot communicate as long as this is happening.
And that was the beginning of their estrangement.
I needed it. I needed to have that pocket of time. Of course, I thought it was going to be a pocket of time. I did not, by any stretch of the imagination, think that this was going to happen to Hayden. I don't know why. I just didn't. Maybe I didn't want to.
Hayden released a book about her life, This Is Me, A Reckoning, back in May. She came to Nightline to promote the memoir in what would be one of her final interviews.
This is the first time where I'm walking out. It's my very raw self. I'm not promoting a project or a character that I played. This is the raw version of me.
In the book, she recalls telling her mom at 19 that she didn't want Vogel to manage her career anymore, and Vogel replied, "You owe me." Vogel remembers that moment, but says her version doesn't match Hayden's.
how are you going to come out here and say that your daughter who just passed is lying? Like, why would she lie? She has been so open and honest and upfront about all her struggles and everything. Like, she's not going to come out here and lie about that. Please, lady. Yeah, Melissa, actually, I'm glad you brought this up. Wait, so we all know she dated Brian's brother too. Yes, that's what I heard. And I heard that Brian's brother was still in love with her. Rightfully so. Like, she's gorgeous. I'm very confused who this lady on the screen is. I don't actually think that's her mom. Someone must have took over somebody's body. And it's, you know what I'm saying? I feel bad for all of them Hollywood people now, just saying. I know. We all wanted to be Hollywood people, and now we're like, no. Was he nicer? I think so. But what do I know?
Remember being in her trailer and literally saying nothing. I knew that day would come. It's not that I didn't expect it, but it was very short, very brief conversation. And then she turned and went to set.
Did it hurt to read that in the book?
You know, it just, I know I didn't say what she said I said.
Vogel lost her son Jansen in 2023, just 28. He was Hayden's little brother.
You've now lost 2 children in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
Where do you go from here?
Just trying to I think you just have to find that inner strength. I have been knocked down throughout my life, and I'm not complaining because I have the strength to get back up. And that really is, it's not if we fall, it's how we get back up that defines who we are.
Vogel says that while her
This isn't about her. Like,
current focus is on the investigation into Hayden's death, she will be planning a celebration of her life down the road.
What do you want Hayden to
down
be
the
remembered
road.
for?
I want Hayden to be remembered for the talented, beautiful, outgoing, intelligent woman she really was. But I also want people to understand that it is my belief that she was suffering. Now, that doesn't make sense, because when you look at a beautiful girl who's got an incredible career, even though it has had its ups and downs, but you look at that big picture and you go, why would you be suffering? People don't understand that you can have on the exterior all of this.
Maybe because she's a child actor who was SA'd. Probably, I mean, I'd hate to say more than we know, but you know what I mean? That whole crowd in Hollywood. At least whatever James Blunt did, or was that who did it? I don't know. That's what I've heard, that's who the person is, but I don't know. Allegedly. I don't know if that's necessarily SA, but some form of it, right? She will capitalize on her death. I think that's what she's doing in these interviews. Her daughter died and she isn't complaining. No, she's making it about her and her trauma.
But that doesn't mean that what's going on in here matches.
Whatever, lady. Whatever. Let's continue on the book. I remember when Diana Jenkins was on The Housewives and she gives such sus vibes. Listen, that whole thing is wild. I feel terrible for Hayden. And all the Britneys of the world, the Amanda Bynes of the world. I'm going to look it up. No, you're fine, Melissa. I'm going to stop hating. I'm being a hater too. Okay, let's continue with the book. So we left off on chapter 11. I think we're going to read up to 20 today. At least that's what I put in my title. Chapter 11, Never Forget. Every December, starting when I was 2, Mom dressed me and later Jansen in nice clothes. We had and bundled us up in our coats for a trip into the city. Manhattan during the holidays is pure magic, with lights strung on the tops and sides of buildings. The Rockefeller Center Christmas tree spreading its branches over what feels like an entire block, and animated shop windows pulling you into a fantastical imaginary world. I look forward to these trips all year. The chill and expectation in the air and the crowds of excited people filling up the city made it feel like time had stopped and all was at peace. I had nothing to worry about and nothing better to do than to soak it all in and enjoy the time with my family. Walking around Manhattan, I didn't have to act older than my years. I was just a silly kid at Christmas. But there was nowhere else that made me feel as free and as innocent as Dad's firehouse. That's where we were always headed right before or after we played tourist. Dad's last firehouse, where he was lieutenant for 5 years, was Engine 4, Tower Ladder 15 in the financial district. Situated in nondescript five-story building on South Street with FDNY's trademark red garage doors, the company is a block from the East River and less than half a mile south of Wall Street. As the southernmost firehouse in Manhattan, it serves block after block of skyscrapers filled with office workers, as well as a helipad, piers, boats, and ferry terminal that line its stretch of the East River. It was and is a huge operation, and until 2000, I considered it my second home. Each time Jansen and I walked inside, one of Dad's colleagues would scoop us up in a bear hug and then let us run the fire engines and climb inside. When we got out, we'd grab plates and fill them up with whatever the firefighters had cooked that night. One of the guys always dressed up as Santa, and kids came to visit at Christmas, and he'd pass out gifts and candy to all of us. The last Christmas we visited was in 2000 because Dad had decided to retire in January of 2001. It wasn't an easy choice. Dad wasn't one of those guys who had been counting the days till he got his pension. He loved his job and his colleagues, and even though he saved lives of countless people, young and old, I don't think he ever felt like his life was in danger. At least I didn't. Kids have a hard time wrapping their brains around what true danger is. I feared auditions and the thought of losing sight of mom in the grocery store more than I worried about Dad. After 20 years on the job, though, it was time for Dad to hang up his suit and gear for the last time. Now he could focus on golf, his flooring business, and taking me and Jansen to auditions, shoots, and premieres. Because he'd been a firefighter for so long and a social butterfly for even longer, Dad knew everyone. Even after his retirement, the invitations for parties and picnics kept coming. On Labor Day weekend, just before Jansen and I started school, Dad got an invitation to a picnic from South Street Seaport crew. Wear clothes you can get dirty in, Mom said. Apparently, there's going to be volleyball. We drank too much soda and played volleyball for hours, then ran around with the children of firefighters I'd known my entire life. When we went home, we were covered in dirt and sweat, exhausted and stuffed with junk food. The day was as magical as the summer afternoons I spent in Brooklyn with Grandma and Papa before they retired to Pennsylvania. When Dad and Uncle Johnny would open the hydrants so the kids could splash and cool off. A week after the picnic, I sat in Mr. Piscatelli's sixth grade math class at South Orangetown Middle School and heard the principal's voice come over in the intercom. "I'm sorry to interrupt," she said between breaths, "but there's a small fire in the World Trade Center right now. If anyone here has a parent that works in Manhattan, please come into the office now." About half the class stood up. What the heck is going on? I thought as my classmates filed out the door. It had taken me a second to realize that the World Trade Center was what I always called the Twin Towers, but once I got it, I couldn't figure out what the big deal was. A small fire was no match for those huge skyscrapers. Besides, Dad's firehouse was right near there, and if anyone can handle an emergency, it was those guys. A few minutes later, the school loudspeaker crackled to life again. "Attention, please," our assistant principal said. "Attention. We will be dismissing school early. Please get your things and wait until your parents come to pick you up. We're calling them now. Repeat. School is dismissed." My breathing stopped and my heart sank. I didn't know what was happening, but if school was closing, suddenly it had to be bad. Very, very, very bad. After we were dismissed, the rumors started to swirl. Some people assumed it must be a bombing like what happened in 1993. Others believe it was a fire, sort of like our principal had said, but much bigger. I realize now that teachers knew every bit of what was going on that morning, but they didn't say anything. I'm sure they didn't want to scare us. They could leave that job to our parents who were parked out front or streaming inside. "Dad," I yelled as I saw my dad's car pull up. "Can you tell me what's going on?" "Yes, but let's get you home first," he answered as I got inside. "Your mom went to get Jansen, but they should be home soon too." Then he pulled me into a big bone crushing hug. And part of me realized it was to comfort him as much as me. When dad and I got home, the TV was on, and for the first time, I saw the planes fly into the World Trade Center one after the other. Dad didn't cry. I don't think his brain was able to process that much trauma all at once. There's nothing more noteworthy or important about my experience of 9/11 than a lot of people's. I just want to honor my dad's friends, the 14 firefighters, including one captain, who rushed to the Twin Towers immediately after the first plane hit and died at ground zero. I'd played volleyball with them, eaten the chili they made, and climbed on their laps when they were dressed as Santa Claus. Dad's last firehouse was less than 10-minute drive from the World Trade Center, so it was one of the first companies on the scene. I decided to write about September 11th because that day serves as a defining moment for my generation. It was the first time our eyes opened to politics and world events, and the first time many of us truly felt vulnerable. It was the first time we'd been old enough to understand that our country was entering into war, and the only time we'd experienced that degree of loss in only a few hours. That day changed our relationship with our parents, too. I never saw my dad cry, but I'm sure he did eventually after the shock and sadness had settled into his bones. Or maybe it was after he went down to ground zero a day or so later and began to dig through the rubble, searching for the bodies of his friends. One of my favorite pictures of him was taken there. He's wearing a hard hat, resting his head on a shovel, and standing on a pile of debris. The world felt different, like all hope had dimmed, and the blue skies I'd gazed into that morning just hadn't seemed as calm. But I was proud of dad. He lived through death, which is the hardest part of living, and now he was showing me how to do it with grace. It was the toughest job of his life. He'd been in the business of saving lives, but at ground zero, there was no one left to save. For my generation, 9/11 was the first time in a lot of our lives that we had to figure out how to comfort our parents and calm our teachers. We said to them, "We're okay. We're not going to fall apart on you. We can handle this." 9/11 taught us the true meaning of resilience, breaking us but making us tougher because we simply couldn't fall apart. We had to be strong. And when I remember that Labor Day picnic, playing volleyball, or the many Christmases climbing onto the company fire truck, I try to be as brave as those firefighters and first responders were. I will never, ever forget them. It's kind of eerie that she like talks about this in the book like death because we know she experienced that with her brother, but like obviously at that time she didn't know what was gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? So sad. She needed her story out. She must have known she wouldn't be here long. Her life went so fast. Right? And she talks about she wrote a book for a reason. Exactly. Cause I was debating on coming back and reading it. I'm not gonna lie. That's why it took a while. I did debate it. I just felt like, I don't know, like it was personal. So I'm like, maybe I shouldn't be reading it. But she says she wanted it out there. You know, she wants her story out there. She wants people to know the truth. And um, that's what it's here for. It's an educational book at this point as well. She teaches people about grief in here, about addiction, about politics, like we just read 9/11 and what came with that. Um, it's a very and you should still buy it. Absolutely. Everyone should have a hard copy because it's one of those books you just I'm a big book reader. I know people don't really know that, but and I like collect like really old books and new books and used books, and I keep my favorite ones too. I have two different libraries, and this is definitely one of those books that I would want to keep in there and have for like ever, you know? Hope her mom isn't getting the money. No, I heard, I think her estate might be going to her daughter, but I could see the mom, the evil mom, um, try to fight her for some of it respectfully. I could see that. She said in an interview that she could ever help one person, that was worth it to her. Yeah, and she's helping us all with this book. I was in a military base in Germany watching on TV, crying with my neighbors because we knew that what that meant for our husbands. Yeah, that was a crazy time. We lived through that. Isn't that crazy? I love reading. Me too. I'm actually reading another book right now, Frida book. Yeah, I'll never forget where I was. I was at home and I was just waking up when I saw it. on TV. I was so confused. I was the same age as her. Hey, Barbie. Her dad was yeah. I was wondering what happened to her dad. Thanks, Anthony. Shout out to Melanie for reading it for her. It's definitely one to buy. Yeah, you can get it on Amazon. You can get it on I think that's probably the best option to but I bought the hard copy as well as the ebook. And you guys should too. You can get it, I think at like Barnes and Noble. I know Target had it for a while. So I'm sure you can find it in places, but I, Amazon's where I got mine. I had to wait like a week or two, but it's worth it. Yeah, I know. Me and my mom were watching it on TV. That's me too. At school that morning, and we were watching it, and I was like so confused. We were trying to explain it to my 8-year-old yesterday because we were driving by. And my husband said it's not the same skyline without the towers. Yeah. Off F Amazon. I'll get it off Barnes and Noble. I know. There's this. I know. Some people don't like Amazon and what it, the company and its ethics. I could respect that 1000%. Just like a lot of people don't. I think you can get it at Walmart too, and a lot of people don't like Walmart. What? It's not. No freaking way. I'm a book collector too, and on side note, do you know Dolly Parton's charity? Yeah, I know. She gave any kid in the country free books for their entire childhood. I want that. Well, my adulthood. There's also a biography in her. We all wear American flag stuff. I remember being up in like 99. I canceled my subscription. Oh. Yeah, I got this ebook on Barnes and Noble, so definitely go there if you want it for yourself too. I'm telling you guys, it's worth it. If I literally lived so close, I saw the towers out of my bedroom window. Yeah, sad moment. Okay, let's continue. Chapter 12, Hayden in the middle. Mom and I were back in LA driving away from the airport and down the freeway in our Sebring convertible. It was pilot season, and we were headed to the Oakwood Apartments, a short-term furnished rental chain that almost every actor in LA cycles through at one point or another. That evening, we planned a shower, go out to eat, and get ready for my early morning audition. I was up for a small role in Malcolm in the Middle, and Mom assured me she had a surefire plan to get me that part. I was 12 years old, and while I knew I needed my mom, I wasn't sure I wanted her. I definitely didn't need whatever crazy plan Mom had cooked up. She and I spent so much time together, so deeply enmeshed in each other's lives that we started grating on each other. I hated when Mom whispered about other actors during auditions, positive that they could hear her or compare them to me. I hated when Mom went to the industry parties and got tipsy on the Merlot she loved. Recently, Mom had also made me late for a scene during filming of Raising Helen because she had to go to the bathroom and it had rattled one of my older co-stars. You have to be on time if you want to succeed in this business, she said to me, frowning. She had a point, and I wanted to scream that it was Mom's bladder, not me, that had been less than professional. Instead, I swallowed my pride and decided not to throw Mom under the bus. On Malcolm in the Middle, I was up for the part of Jessica, Malcolm's neighbor and babysitter. Jessica was a disheveled, awkward nerd whose brains were such a match to the Malcolm's genius that he fell for her hard. The producers insisted that Jessica should be anything but blonde, but somehow my agent had gotten me the audition anyway. Now it was up to me to secure the role, or if you asked Mom, it was up to her. Now, Hayden, Mom said emphatically, on the way to my audition, I need you to do something when you meet the director. I know it's going to sound completely bizarre, but hear me out. I rolled my eyes in typical preteen fashion. Sure, Mom. The episode's director is Bryan Cranston. You know what Bryan played my husband on Loving, right? Of course, I answered. I also knew that Bryan Cranston played Malcolm's affectionate but useless father on the show. So when you finish your lines, I need you to tell Bryan that your mom wants to say hello to him. My stomach sank. This was crazy. Mom, I pleaded. I can't do that. No actor calls their mom into an audition. It's embarrassing and they'll think I've lost my mind. Mom laughed. No, they're going to think I'm the crazy one, and I'm okay with that. I sighed. When mom was onto something, arguing was useless. I gave it all I gave it my all during the audition, right in front of Brian, the producers, the casting director, and everyone else in the room. The stage fright was there. It always was. But I told myself that no matter how they believed Jessica was supposed to look, I was capable of playing her. Who cares if I was blonde? If the directors wanted Jessica to be a nerdy girl next door, I'd give them that. Thank you so much, the casting director said when I finished reading my lines. We'll get back to you soon. I nodded my head, then I straightened up, stood tall, and looked at Brian. Mr. Cranston, my mother is outside and she would like to say hello. You could have heard a pin drop in that room. I cleared my throat. Hi, Mr. Cranston. My mother would like to see you, please. Brian screwed up his face and I could visualize the thoughts processing in his head. So you said your mother wants to see me? He asked, half smiling. He was clearly too nice to tell a kid to keep dreaming, or he was such a good actor that he couldn't fake a smile with the best of them. I think it was a little bit of both. I smiled, also faking it. Yes, she's outside. Absolutely, Brian said, the actor in him shining through again. Let's go meet your mom. He pushed his chair back and began to walk towards the door, and the casting director shot up and ran to his side like he was playing bodyguard. Brian opened the door cautiously, then poked his head out. There stood Mom, her coral lipstick framing her huge smile. Brian Cranston, she shouted as she ran towards him with her arms out. It's Leslie Vogel, your wife on Loving. Brian backed up for a moment, then held his stomach, and he doubled over in laughter as Mom pulled him into a hug. Your daughter scared me to death, he finally said. I thought I was going to be attacked by an out-of-control stage mom. Isn't she good? Mom asked, beaming. She is, he answered. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Mom blushed. So what do you think? Did she get the part? Brian paused. You know, Leslie, he said, Hayden is so wrong for this role, but we're going to make this work. We can put a wig and some nerdy glasses on her, and we'll have our Jessica. Mom started clapping, and I did too. I'd have to give it to her. My mom might have been embarrassing and ruthless, but she was a force of nature when it came to me. Well, I thought, sometimes doing something crazy really does pay off. Ew. Her mom with the coral lipstick. Thank you, Melissa Hertz. Canceling my Kindle subscription and giving you the proceeds. Thank you you're so cute, providing a safe place for all of us to be low-key shady. I appreciate you, Melissa. Thank you for this super. That's funny. Yeah, listen, she brings up the coral lipstick she's wearing in that interview, and I just have to say that is not her shade. I could definitely recommend something better. So where's that? Oh my gosh, Jinx, Ryan Cast. It looks good on people, don't get me wrong. Not sure what he's talking about, but I had to act surprised. I couldn't act no way I know so much nerves. Oh yeah. Chris. Our Chris. Just kidding. Oh my god, I know him from another chat. Who? I'm just reading your guys' comments. My granddaughter got a book every month till she was 5. I love books. I literally live so close. Oh, I hear you. That one. Our Chris. That's funny. Definitely not. Right? Okay. Let's continue. Coral lips. It can be cute on some people. I used to work as a makeup artist, and it could people can definitely pull it off, just not Hayden's mom. I don't think, in my opinion. I don't know. Let me know. Okay, next chapter 13, Africa. Oh, look, she's back, the girl in my 8th grade class said after giving me a heaping plate of what Mom called the hairy eyeball. I'd returned to school after filming an episode of Malcolm in the Middle, and once again, I was the odd person out in the cafeteria. Hi, I answered. Yeah, I got back last night. I'm exhausted. Now, if only I could find a place to sit so I can eat. My classmate was a part of a group that, for some intangible reason, rose to the top of the middle school social hierarchy. She wasn't really a friend, but I knew her well enough to want to sit at her table. Plus, beggars can't be choosers when you're in lunchroom. I was hungry and I needed to eat. You can sit with us, she said, then scanned the table to look at the rest of her group. In fact, I'll get your chair for you. The other friends scooted a little closer together, and my classmate left in return holding a chair. Thank you, I answered as she pulled it out and motioned for me to sit. I put my tray down and did as she instructed. Thud. She pulled my chair out from under me, and I landed on the dirty floor as the girls began to laugh. Starting in middle school, the warm embrace I'd felt from people my age and Sneaden's Landing faded. In its place came bullying. Every few months, someone passed me a note in hall or class, and I opened it, hoping it was gossip or an invitation to a sleepover. It almost never was. Most of the time, the note read something like, "You're not better than anyone else here," or "Your acting sucks." Those words always stung me, but I never threw the notes away. Instead, I slid them into my backpack, and when I got home, I put them in a binder under my bed. At times, I pulled out the binder to look at them, letting them serve as a constant reminder to feel shame. These notes fed that seed of insecurity I'd carried since I was born. They held the fear that gave me stage fright. Later, they embodied the anxiety that made me drink. People were nice to me, one on one, when they didn't have to pretend or act out for someone else. When they weren't part of a group, people could form their own opinions or decide to take a chance. Otherwise, I was miserable at school. Everywhere I turned, no one seemed to want me. Dad assumed I was unhappy because of acting, so one day he pulled me aside and leveled with me. Look, Hayden, he said, I think we need to take a break. How about you just stay home and be a kid for a while? Your mother and I don't care about acting. We care about you. I burst out in tears, but not for the reason Dad expected. Daddy, I love what I do, I said, sobbing. I don't want to quit. What I didn't want to tell him was that to me, quitting was failure. Acting was where I got praise. Acting was where I got love. Dad looked shocked. He thought he was writing in to save his daughter from all the craziness, but the craziness was saving me from feeling alone. It was school I hated, not acting. I loved my family, my job, and the few friends like Madison who made me feel safe. But as far as school was concerned, I just wanted to run far, far away. In 8th grade, I got my wish. Far, far away was South Africa. Racing Stripes is a family movie about a zebra accidentally left behind in Kentucky when the circus leaves town. After being rescued by a horse trainer, he moves to a farm next to a track and, believing he's the horse, begins to dream about racing. Stripes gets his big chance when the trainer's daughter, Channing, climbs on his back and takes him to the track. When she signs up to race him, everyone thinks she's lost her mind, but she knows Stripes is as fast as any horse. Spoiler alert, he is. I was up for the role of Channing and like Channing Tatum, and the audition was just about as strange as what I'd had to do for Panic Room. Instead of falling on the floor and faking a seizure, though the casting director told me to saddle up and ride a horse as best as I could. Keith Harris, the film's Australian horse trainer, planned to judge me against other girls auditioning for the part of Channing. Naturally, I'd assume the best rider would win the role. I liked horses well enough and knew the basics of how to handle them, but I was a dreadful rider that day. In the middle of my audition, I fell off my horse right onto my butt. Determined not to quit, I dusted myself off and climbed back on. Keith Harris decided to turn my lemons into his lemonade. Now that's a girl I can teach, he said. He and the directors conferred with each other, and I got the part. Racing Stripes was live action, but most of its actors planned to work from a sound studio, serving as the animals' voices. My castmate on Malcolm in the Middle, Frankie Muniz, was cast as Stripes, and Jansen got the part of young Stripes. Jansen had been building up his resume as a voice actor after securing the role of Periwinkle, a tabby cat on Blue's Clues, and his scratchy, hugely animated voice was perfect as a sad little zebra who's rescued in the pouring rain. Jansen may have been driving me nuts at home. He'd just gotten a drum set and he'd bang on those drums all day and all night, but his voice was heartbreakingly adorable. Anyone would fall in love with him, even if they had to endure his bad drumming. Filming was near a town called Nottingham Road in the KwaZulu-Natal province in eastern South Africa, and it was expected to last 5 months or more. Because Jansen was in school in New York, mom and dad decided they'd switch out shifts on set with me. Mom would be there first, and dad would fly in halfway through the film schedule while mom flew out. The issue, of course, was middle school. This was years before the pandemic when remote school became routine. So anytime I was filming, I depended on on-set tutors and teachers who remember to email my assignments on time. Who remembered to email my assignment on time. The tutors were fine, but the teachers often forgot. I shouldn't have been surprised. One of my middle school teachers, Miss Marino, had started referring to me as the big cheese. I wasn't sure she liked me enough to get me my work on time. Mom and dad finally had enough, and before we left, they pulled me aside. Your dad and I have been talking, and we decided that you're going to be homeschooled. No more late assignments, no more missing school, and no more getting bullied. After the shock passed, I smiled. Yes, mom, that's great. Thank you. My school days were done, and when I got to South Africa, I met the mandated requirement for homeschooling exclusively through a tutor. With middle school, lunchroom seats, and big cheese in the back seat, I could focus on acting. Racing stripes was a dream come true for an animal lover like me. With the help of Heath, I worked with 4 baby zebras and 8 adults. One zebra was named Daisy, and she was a maniac. Then there was Sam, who appeared in Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls. He was a friendly guy and always well behaved. Everyone assured me there was no way he'd given me any trouble. Remember that. Sam was supposed to be no trouble at all. For my first season with zebras, I showed up in shorts and flip flops, thinking I'd be getting a tutorial from Heath and not actually writing. Apparently, I had missed the memo. You're not getting on a zebra wearing flip flops, Heath said sternly. I showed up the next day on time and properly attired, ready to ride. Sorry, I need a drink. I was like choking. I haven't seen it. Wait, seen what she was talking about? I could never. The mean girls at that age. I know. Isn't that sad? You would think that they wouldn't be mean to her and would want to be friends with her and stuff. Who makes a little girl ride an actual zebra? I don't know. She says, okay, where did I leave off on? You're not getting a zebra wearing flip-flops, Heath said. I showed up the next day on time and properly attired, ready to ride. These zebras were not at all like domesticated horses. They were wild animals who'd come from various corners of southern Africa, including from the Kalahari Desert, and they bucked, reared up, and sometimes tried to bite me. Zebras are also remarkably slow and don't walk in a straight line, so when I rode them, I had to force them back to the center. Their mouths are also tough as nails, so they weren't phased when the reins pulled their bits. I had to use all my strength and weight anytime I wanted them to move. I loved the 4 babies, but the babies didn't love me, at least at first. Two of them, Zoe and Columbia, were so obsessed with one of the trainers, Andrew, that they followed him everywhere. And Andrew advised me to stick with them because the point was to bond with me. But Zoe and Columbia had other ideas. Every time I stood next to Andrew, Zoe ran between us, shifted her backside towards me, and kicked me hard. Then she turned around with her head towards me, lowered it, and charged me. I felt like I was back home getting chased by Madison's turkey, but 1,000 times worse. Also, did I mention that baby zebras love to bite? I spent half the day wiping zebra spit off my arms. I did most of my own stunts, and one day I had to film a scene riding Sam. Sam was usually a sweetheart, but apparently he'd sent 2 of my stunt doubles to the hospital the day before. Go figure. Trusting that he'd always be the angel I knew him to be, I mounted him without a worry in the world. At first, things went fine, but when I approached what was called the mounting pads, which were the elevated platforms that helped us mount and dismount, Sam bugged. At that exact moment, I tried to hop off him. My foot was caught in the stirrup, so my body swung up into the air, then came down hard on the ground. I felt an excruciating pain shoot through my back. Are you okay? Heath yelled, running towards me. I'm fine, I stammered. It was a total lie. I was injured, in pain, and screwed. As my body twisted through the air above Sam's back, I did some calculations in my head and realized that I was in the middle of nowhere, far away from a hospital. The closest thing to civilization I'd seen was a seedy restaurant called Porky's Bar and Grill, and I can assure you there was no competent doctors eating there. Going to the hospital would also take me away from filming for who knows how long, and the last thing I wanted to do was inconvenience anyone or slow down production. So I kept my mouth shut and endured the pain in my back and neck. Over 20 years later, these injuries still bother me. Even with my back injury, zebra bites, and more bumps and bruises than I could count, my 6 months in South Africa, were glorious. Nottingham Road was surrounded by green, rolling hills, cattle ranches, and sheep farms, and each day I'd walk outside grateful to be alive and have the opportunity to be in such a beautiful place. When I wasn't filming, I had the chance to travel to Cape Town and Johannesburg and even go on a safari. Seeing South Africa's animals roaming free in their vast natural habitat blew my mind. These were creatures I'd ever only seen at the Bronx Zoo. In a huge surprise, I was also invited to be an ambassador for the International Union for Conservation of Nature Red List of Threatened Species. The IUCN is an international organization that promotes nature conservation, particularly the tens of thousands of animals that are close to extinction. For the first time in my life, I realized that even a kid could help others. Maybe my classmates didn't want me around, but that didn't mean I didn't have value. I could help others. It was a revelation, and I vowed then and there to do everything in my power to help animals in need, even the ones who kick, buck, and bite. As my plane departed South Africa and rose into the sky, I looked down at the ground below and my eyes filled with tears. I thought of Zoe, Daisy, Columbia, and the biting baby zebras, as well as all the beautiful animals whose lives were threatened by mankind. I thank the people of South Africa for making me feel so at home, and I wondered if I'd ever get the chance to come back. South Africa was half a world away from New York, so I knew it would be a long time, if ever. Then I thought ahead to school, and I knew there was no building for me to return to anymore. As soon as I landed, I was officially a career girl whose school life would mold itself around acting. Dad was sitting next to me, and he must have read my mind. You ready for this? He asked, homeschooling and everything. I am, I answered, smiling and sitting back in my seat. I spent over half my life in LA, and that means I've lived through a lot of earthquakes. At the end of an earthquake, the nausea inducing shaking and unsteadiness dissipate. The strange rumblings quiet down, and your emotions feel suspended. You don't know whether to brace for an aftershock or be happy you've survived. It's an eerie sense of calm, the kind you may not be able to trust. After I felt my first LA earthquake, I learned to pause in that moment of calm and be aware. I was still standing, still alive. I was prepared for whatever came next. I stood on a solid foundation. I might have been afraid, but I was ready. Deciding to leave school felt much the same. I knew leaving school was going to push me out on my own, where I'd have to forge my way and work within my personal expectations. Something established and known was breaking, so it was up to me to prepare for whatever lay ahead. On the long plane ride back to New York, I stopped and checked my feelings. I was still the same person with the same needs, but mom and dad had my back and I could do this. Maybe there would be aftershocks, but I wouldn't let fear stand in the way. It was a new day built on new moments, and I sensed that my life would be better from here on out. It's really sad because had I read that she was having health issues before she passed, and I know her back issues were one of them. There's a picture I think that TMZ got of her at the airport, and she had like she was walking with like I forget what they're called because I think of her back pain. Not crutches, but they're the ones that go around her wrist. Forget what they're called. Sorry. It's like Hollywood doesn't care at all about labor laws. Riding a domesticated horse is dangerous enough. They should never let her get on a wild zebra. Poor girl, I know. Yeah, they usually are popular as hell, agree. No, not the well, there was like the ones that go on your wrist, and they are kind of like crutches. I heard horses are very sweet. This is sad. But her being taken out of school to be homeschooled, I think that was like a pivotal moment for her too. It's like her childhood was like gone at this point for sure. She was like in the acting world now. Part two, a family divided. How long have I been late for? Okay. Chapter 14, a family divided. I was 16 years old and mom and I were in Florida staying with her sister. Aunt Jana was long over her eating disorder and she'd gone from destroying her body to cherishing it. First, she'd become a personal trainer and now she was a massage therapist. And in her spare time, she was a bodybuilder. In her own words, Jana was an old hippie and her house was like a hobbit house with candles, dried flowers, and warm earthy tones. Outside, she had a gorgeous garden full of tropical plants with a fairy garden nestled under some of them. Aunt Jana was a country mouse to mom's city mouse, and her childhood trauma had led her to become an excellent listener. I didn't get to spend much time with Aunt Jana, so I loved visiting her, and this trip had been a restorative and relaxing break from a busy year. Cue mom, who ran from relaxation like it was about to bite her. As I sat reading a book, she stormed into my aunt's living room, yelling out her name. Mom was white as a ghost, out of breath, and waving her arms as she barreled into the kitchen. Jana, oh my God, this is a catastrophe. Oh my God, I think I need to sit down. Sit, Aunt Jana said calmly. What's wrong? Are you okay? Mom plopped unsteadily onto the bar stool and closed her eyes, then burst into tears. Oh my God, she cried. It's Skip. I was just on the phone with him and he told me he's been having an affair. I don't know what to do. An affair. I put down my book, sat back in my chair, and felt my stomach turn. Dad cheated on mom, I thought. How could he do such a thing? In one instant, every belief I held about marriage, family, and love flew out the window. Along with it went every ounce of respect I had for dad. The dad I thought I knew wasn't selfish. That dad used to come home exhausted after a 24-hour shift, scoop me and Jansen up, and toss us onto the bed. When we bounced back, we'd scream, one more time, and he'd pick us up and start the game all over again. That dad was a consummate handyman who would fix anything broken around the house without being asked. That dad worked 2 jobs to put a roof over his children's head. Now suddenly, the dad I thought I knew had been replaced by a man who done something that might tear his family apart. I was distraught, but as mom cried in Aunt Jana's arm, I knew dad's news had hit her harder than me. In retrospect, I guess I shouldn't have been surprised. The truth was that my parents had been drifting apart for years, but it was a slow burn crisis, and I was oblivious to the fact that things were about to reach a boiling point. My acting schedule forced them apart for weeks at a time, and when they were home together, they settled into routines that didn't include each other. Mom had wound down her acting career, but she sometimes taught acting lessons and was always shutting me and Jansen from one place to another, shuttling me and Jansen from one place to another while dad worked or played golf. Mom brought her phone to the dinner table every night, anticipating some urgent call, while dad cherished dinner time as a place where he bonded with us and told stories. I can't tell you how many times I heard him complain, come on, Leslie, can't we have one dinner when you aren't working? Then he'd frown when mom stood up and pour herself another glass of Merlot. Or more recently, the vodka and sodas she liked at cocktail hour. Our family had always been feisty, and there was an edge to mom and dad's arguments now. Home felt crowded as mom and dad fought each other and then retreated into their own worlds. To anyone other than me or Jansen, it was plain as day that their connection had fizzled out. Then there was 9/11. Dad didn't talk much about it, but I knew that day had scarred him. The fact that he lived when dozens of his friends died caused a void that no one, including mom, could fill. I'm sure dad's quiet plan alienated her, especially because she embraced her emotions every chance she got. Oh, Hayden, mom said as she swiveled her bar stool towards the living room. I didn't realize you were there. I guess you heard everything I said. I nodded my head. I did, Mom. And I don't know what to say, but I think I need to go for a walk. Aunt Jana looked at me sympathetically, then put her arms around Mom again as I walked outside into a world that had suddenly been turned on its head. Mom and I stayed in Florida for a few more days, and I was so relieved to have Aunt Jana around so I wouldn't have to pick up the pieces of my mother alone. But the fear about what would happen when we went home was pure torture. So everything Mom told me she learned about, so was everything Mom told me she learned about Dad's affair. This woman, whoever she is, has 2 kids, Mom said. When I get home, I'm going to remind your father that the whole time he was prancing around with that woman, he has 2 children as well. Uh-huh, I answered, gritting my teeth. Mom had been talking about Dad nonstop, and when she wasn't, she was walking around the house trying to stay busy, but clearly feeling miserable. I had all the sympathy in the world for Mom, but the negative energy was beginning to wear me down. And the affair went on for 6 months, Mom added. He says it's over now, but 6 months is not a one night stand. It's a full on relationship. I edged towards the door, wondering if I could slip out, shrinking, and hide in Aunt Jana's fairy garden. I didn't want to hurt or avoid Mom. I wanted to be there for her as much as she needed, but I was exhausted. The sheer volume of information, questions, and second guessing what that was running through my brain was drowning me. I didn't know what this other woman looked like, where she worked, or how she and Dad met. I kept visualizing what her children might look like or where she and Dad conducted their business. God, how disgusting, I thought, trying to blot out the idea of my dad in bed with someone else. I wondered what Jansen and I were doing while Dad was off with her. Then it hit me that Dad might have been lying to us when he said he was playing golf. I'd never known Dad to lie, but then again, I never known him to cheat on Mom either. I reached for the screen door handle to make my exit, but then I decided to ask the one question that ate me more than all the others. Mom, why did he tell you? When we were arguing on the phone, she answered, wiping away tears. I don't even remember what the fight was about, but I said something, and then your father just blurted out his news. It was all in the heat of the moment. Why did he do that? I asked. Mom frowned. Your father told me he didn't think I'd care. That's when it hit me. Mom and Dad were on opposite planets in terms of their emotional connection. Dad thought Mom didn't love him, while Mom thought Dad loved her without question. Yet neither of them communicated this. I'd always thought of my parents' marriage as a constant, the solid foundation that held me up through everything, but that had all been an illusion. I'd always felt safe with them together, but the reality was I wasn't. The next day, Mom and I packed up to head to New York. It was time to face reality, and that meant facing Dad. Mom told me he'd most likely move out as soon as we got back, and the 2 of them would decide later what they wanted to do about their marriage. I'm not sure what I want, Hayden, Mom told me as we settled into our seats on the airplane. Everything's changed. I don't know where to go from here. You'll be okay, Mom, I answered. I'm sure of it. Mom sighed. I know I will be. But what about you and Jansen? What if this woman asks your father to spend Christmas with her and her children, and she invites you and your brother over? Mom shifted in her seat and turned to look me into the eyes. Would you spend Christmas with your father and that woman? Where's Aunt Jana's fairy garden when I need it? I thought, then I sunk into my seat, closed my eyes, and willed my mother to stop projecting her agony onto me. The flight to New York was only about 3 hours, but they were the longest 3 hours of my life. I always hated being in tight spaces with Mom when she was angry, and there's almost no place more cramped and claustrophobic than an airplane. Mom's lower jaw was fixed into the underbite that sent my blood pressure through the roof, and I worried she might blow up at any second. With each passing mile, I also became more resentful of Dad. I realized that his affair wasn't just a betrayal of Mom or a massive disruption of the peace and safety Jansen and I needed at home. It was also a betrayal of me. Without Aunt Jana present, I was Mom's therapist and a shoulder to cry on. When I got mad at her and begged her to stop saying ugly things about Dad, she got even angrier, and I became her emotional punching bag. I didn't blame her. When you're hurt, your urge is to fight, flee, or freeze. Mom was choosing to fight, but when her lower jaw began to tremble, I could see her pain, and I knew intuitively that her rage was masking her heartbreak. Mom needed someone to vent to, and I was there, the mature older child who'd spent her youth navigating the adult world. Like it or not, I spent my whole life preparing for this. But man, it was painful. I didn't want to be mom's support system or emotional garbage dump. I just wanted to be her child. And whenever we made it home, I didn't know if my own needs would fall to the wayside or if I'd ever have anyone to talk to about my pain. So I stared out the window, wishing it would all go away. If I didn't pay attention to what had happened over the last few days, maybe that meant it wasn't real. That is really, I didn't know that, guys. I didn't know that her dad had had an affair. We're starting on chapter 15. It's like Hollywood doesn't care about Libras. No, Hollywood doesn't. Terrible. I feel so bad for her. She's talked about this too in interviews, being her mom's punching. How sad. I knew there had to be a reason he wasn't really around. I didn't know that part. Or maybe I did and had forgot. But chapter 15. A hero is born. It took me months to want to hug dad again. And for all that time, his affair was the elephant in whatever room we shared. But when he finally said he wanted to rip off the band-aid and talk about it with me, we turned a corner. I didn't quite forgive him, but I let him back in. But the truth was that if it hadn't been for heroes, my parents probably would have split up for good. Not long after mom and I returned home, I got a call that sent my family off on the road to second chances. This is one of the best scripts I read in years, one of the important people on my team said. It's got action and drama and those stunts you love to do. The cheerleader character is made for you. This is your big chance. I promised to read the script, but I couldn't help wondering what the deal was with me and cheerleaders. I just finished filming Bring It On, All or Nothing, where I'd played, you guessed it, a cheerleader. I didn't want to be a typecast, but I trusted my team. If they said this was a perfect part for me, I had to audition. I didn't know it, but they also had it on good authority that I was one of the top choices for the role they'd describe. My team had learned about heroes after getting a call from a veteran casting executive who'd had cast me in a show whose pilot was never picked up. He kept tabs on my career, though. When NBC teed up Heroes and started searching for actors to play Claire Bennett, a Texas cheerleader with miraculous self-healing powers, the same casting executive happened to work at NBC. He picked up the phone, called the producers, and said, "For the part of Claire, you got to meet Hayden Panettiere." One call led to another. I hopped on a flight to LA. I really wanted this part, and I walked into my audition so focused it was like I had tunnel vision. If there was anybody else in the room waiting for their audition, I didn't notice. I was there for one thing and one thing only, and that was to say my lines without my hands shaking, my pulse racing, or my words getting caught in my throat. Also, to get the part. Standing in front of the directors, I muzzled my stage fright, took a deep breath, settled my nerves, and visualized myself as Claire Bennett. Then I went for it. I didn't freeze up. In fact, playing out the scene I'd rehearsed for days felt natural. "Thank you for coming in," the casting director said after I'd finished, "but please don't leave yet." I'd started to walk toward the door, so I stopped short and turned. "Do you need me for something else?" I asked. "No, not at all. We just wanted to say congratulations." "For what?" I asked. "I didn't do anything but audition." The casting director laughed, "Forgetting the part. You are Claire Bennett." I thought my heart was going to explode with gratitude. After I thanked everyone, I ran out the waiting room to find mom. I knew this news was going to make her prouder of me than she'd ever been before. "Mom, I have to tell you something," I said when I reached her. "But I can't do it here, so let's go now." I absolutely, positively couldn't risk anyone else hearing me. No, not only would talking disrupt whatever process the other girls were going through, but I very much didn't want to hurt them. Mom's version of quiet talk was a stage whisper, so when she started to ask questions, I shushed her. We grabbed our things and made our way towards the door, and as we exited, we passed a few other girls about my age. I found out later they were the actors up for the role of Claire. As soon as we got outside, I spilled the beans. "You what?" Mom shouted. "No one finds out on the spot if they got a part. It just doesn't happen that way." "I know," I answered, beaming from ear to ear, "but it happened. I promise, Mom." Mom's lips parted, revealing her big smile. "Hayden," she exclaimed, "this is life-changing. Are you ready for it?" "I am," I said. Mom grabbed both my shoulders and pulled me into a hug. I'm so proud of you. You've been waiting 16 years for this. Now let's go call your father. I guess this means we're moving to LA, Dad said after Mom and I returned home. He and Mom had spent the better part of 2 days discussing the pros and cons of relocating our whole family, and they'd ultimately decided that heroes would be so demanding that I need everyone's support. Dad had also closed down his flooring business so he could train to become a golf pro, and he figured that with its perfect weather, LA was a great spot to make that his full-time job. The big unknown was Mom and Dad's marriage. After Dad's affair, they decided to stay together, but the tension between them was still palpable. Their fights were more frequent, their resentments more evident, and I couldn't remember the last time I'd seen them kiss or say, I love you. In fact, I don't think I ever remembered them saying, I love you. Everyone hoped that a change of scenery would fix things, but I decided to leave that up to Mom and Dad. I was only 16 years old. I didn't want to shoulder the burden of my parents' problems. I also didn't know how a move would affect Jansen. He was only 11 and still so sensitive that he'd stopped sleeping with Mom and Dad the year before. Change had always been tough for him, and there are few bigger life disruptors than leaving on your friends and starting fresh in a new school. I was also worried that Jansen's creative, impressionable mind sometimes got a little too creative, and in a wild and woolly new place like LA, who knows where that would lead. For instance, about a year before, he called me while he was at a slumber party. This will be quick, he said. My friends and I are in the kitchen. Just open up my friend's parents' spice cabinet. If I roll some oregano into paper and smoke it, will I get high? I almost dropped the phone. No one in my family smoked, especially not culinary herbs. Jansen, do not smoke that, I said, not sure whether to laugh or cry. First off, it's disgusting, and if you do smoke it, you will feel like your lungs are on fire, okay? He paused. Okay. Jansen clearly needed stability, good sense, and discipline. Yet here I was, about to turn my little brother's life upside down. Last but not least, I had to think about myself. After my nightmarish experiences in middle school, I'd found a new group of friends in town, and we'd been thick as thieves since I was a freshman, my first year of homeschooling. We'd called ourselves Dash, short for Danica, Ellie, Scarlett, and Hayden, and we did everything together. Our favorite activity, however, was throwing themed parties, including a toga bash, a pimps and hoes party, and the Save Bella party, which we organized when our friend Bella got grounded. I was a full year younger than the rest of Dash, but I had more in common with them than anyone my age. They didn't bully me or harbor resentments. In fact, they stood by me. I knew I'd miss them terribly, but I wasn't sure I'd be able to find a group of friends like that in LA. But work called, and on an NBC show that had major money and promotion behind it. Work was everything. Maybe I won't have time to think about family or friends, I thought, knowing deep down I was lying to myself. Maybe I'll be so busy that the rest of my childhood will just pass right by. Yeah. Damn, she was under 16 doing Bring It On. That's crazy. Yes. Hey, Arngrim, good to see you, Liv. I know. That's so young, right? It's like we thought we were all that in a bag of chips at 16, but it's actually really still young. I'm sure all this added to her PPD. Yeah. She really cared about her brother too, which is really sad because he passed, as we know, 3 years ago. Chapter 16. Welcome to LA. In 2006, I purchased a condo in West Hollywood with my own money. It had 2 floors, 2 bedrooms, and 3 bathrooms, which I figured was just enough room for me, my parents, Jansen, and our 2 cats and dog. It was not the custom built 4,300 square foot house we'd enjoyed in New York, but we could make it work. We had to make it work. My parents got the master bedroom, and I took one of the other bedrooms. Jansen's room was above me in the loft, and it contained a bed, a futon, and a desktop computer that blasted house music morning, noon, and night. The loft was Jansen's preteen boy cave, and as the only place that felt separate from the rest of the condo, it gave him a semblance of privacy and his own special space. There was only one problem. It was a loft, so it didn't have walls that could hold all that house music in. One night, I was about to fall asleep and I heard a loud thump above my bedroom. What is that? I yelled, shooting up in bed. Boom! It sounded like something was about to crash through the floor onto my bed and my head. What is going on? I yelled again, jumping up and running upstairs to the loft. When I got there, I saw Jansen. He was standing on the couch, his back towards the television. A mattress lay on the floor behind him. He crouched low, then sprang up, arched his back, and flipped onto the mattress. His feet hit first, then he pitched onto his face. Oh my God, I said, are you trying to do a backflip while I'm trying to fall asleep? Yes, I am, he answered proudly. I'm teaching myself and I'm about to get it just right. Welcome to LA. Our cramped condo was half the size of our house with a fraction of the privacy. This living situation was really going to put our family to the test. On September 25th, 2006, Hero premiered and 14.3 million people tuned in to watch. The pilot was a slam dunk for NBC. For comparison, Monday Night Football gets lower ratings most weeks. I wasn't expecting this kind of reception, but in retrospect, I see why it happened. The writers, led by creator Tim Kring, was brilliant, crafting flawed characters viewers instantly sympathize with. The cast's superpowers were so strange and unconventional that they felt radical. Hiro Nakamura's space-time manipulation and Nikki Sanders' split personalities weren't just fun to watch, they also made you think. This was pre-Iron Man when the Marvel Cinematic Universe was still in its planning stages, and many superhero movies felt stale and dated. In Heroes, the characters weren't always trying to save the world. They simply wanted to save themselves. What an idea. Each episode also sprinkled enough breadcrumbs that viewers followed them right up to the cliffhanger, and then there were plenty of those. The show was a triumph, with an escapist fun mixed with relatable social commentary. I also loved how exciting the set was. Everyone was constantly on their toes, moving from scene to scene with the flood of endorphins coursing through our bodies. No one ever had the chance to doze off at their post. When I wasn't getting ready in my trailer, I was immersed in stunts that were a step up from anything I'd done before. They actually felt dangerous, and they were. For example, after Claire jumped off an oil rig for her opening number, she took a walk with a friend and stumbled upon a burning, derailed train. After assessing the situation with its broken, twisted metal and fiery explosions, she once again dusted off her cheerleading uniform and sprinted into flames to save the train's passenger. The plan was for me to perform the scene all by myself, with no stunt double, and I was pumped. The scale of the derailment was massive. There were multiple train cars, a dozen or so actors playing firefighters, and a pyrotechnic crew who I decided had the most interesting job in Hollywood. The crew covered the train cars in fire retardant materials so that when they ignited them, they looked like they were fully engulfed, but in fact, only their structural surface was. This small scale burn ensured that I could run past the flames without them spreading and setting me on fire. No matter what, the train cars would never fully burn, nor would I. You ready for this? The assistant producer asked as I stood just off camera before the scene started. Dad was on set too, and I looked at him and waved. He was smiling, but I could tell he was worried by the way his arms were crossed. Totally. Let's do this, I answered. The train cars exploded into flames and the director called action. That was my cue to run down a path toward the train and dive right in. Easy peasy, I thought as I set off sprinting. I am a firefighter's daughter after all. As I rushed into the wreck, the flames flickered around, giving me the impression that the fire was raging and inches from engulfing me. Guess what? It was. The flames were so close that they scorched my skin in seconds, but I stood firm, waiting for a voice on a loudspeaker to tell me to leave. When I finally sprinted out, I was coated in sweat. Apparently, so was Dad. Some of my stunts were so complicated and dangerous that I wasn't allowed to do them myself. At first, this rubbed me the wrong way, but I quickly realized what was at stake. Claire's first scene, when she revealed her powers of cellular regeneration, involved her hurling herself off of an oil rig, landing with a thud, then standing up, dusting off her cheerleading uniform, and snapping her broken shoulder back into place. I was dying to do the stunt myself, but the director insisted I couldn't. You're not trained to fall 80 feet, even if you're strapped into a harness, he said. The plan was that I would run up the rig steps, then the camera would to the side while my stunt double strapped in and jumped off. In rehearsals, however, the wire on the rig broke. Thankfully, no one was injured and the crew repaired the wire right away. But I learned my lesson. Stunts are dangerous, and when a director warns you of off one, they probably have a good reason why. The genius of the early Hero episode also had to do with its actors. We were an ensemble cast, and a large one at that, so the show wasn't driven by any one star. There were so many advantages to this. Fans could fall in love with whomever they wanted. The plot was constantly moving among the trials and successes of many people, and if a plot line became stale, there was always another one to bolster it up. An ensemble cast keeps the audience on its toe. It does the same for the writers and cast too. If viewers or critics start to complain about a particular character or plot line, the writers can make adjustments to keep the characters exciting and fresh. Unfortunately, after the first season, this kind of perfectionism happened less and less in the writer's room, but I'll get to that later. Right away, my castmates felt like older siblings, guiding me through scenes and encouraged me to become a better actor through their examples. I never had an acting teacher other than mom, but I've always learned the craft through other actors, and this was never truer than on Heroes. We began to develop off screen relationships, going out to dinner or to each other's homes. As we got to know each other, our on screen characters developed too. We were deeply fundamentally part of each other's lives. While it quickly became apparent that Claire was a fan favorite, I never once felt that the early success or failure of Heroes rested on my shoulders. Like I said, I learned from other actors as much as they learned from me. I also like to study the work of my stunt doubles, who are some of the toughest, smartest people in the business. Whether I was running towards a blazing train derailment or acting out a scene with my co stars, Heroes was liberating, like a full body release. Something that had been lying dormant inside me came alive, and as I grew from a child into an almost grown up, it felt like Heroes was setting me free. It's a really good book. Um, Let me see. I have not watched Heroes in its entirety. I've watched like bits and pieces of it, but I haven't watched all of it. Okay, let me Oh wait, what chapter was that? Oh, okay. Hold on. 16. Mm, okay, I think we're gonna stop there for the day. We were supposed to go up through 20, but we have Lindsay Clancy to cover as well. Let me see. That's weird. It's making me. Okay, I'll figure this out. I have to like refresh the book because it's through Barnes and Noble. Anyways, okay, we'll end there for today on the book. Was that Welcome to LA? Yeah. Okay. We'll leave off there for today because we have Lindsay Clancy to go off of. I will continue to do the book reading tomorrow. I don't want to leave too much space in between. We're also covering Kenzie trial, so we'll try to work around that, but we're definitely going to finish the book. That was chapter 16. I love that show. I can't pull it up. I can't pull up the book now. It's giving me a hard time. I've only watched a couple of episodes of it, but let me actually look up where we can watch Heroes. Is it on? I'm curious. Oh, you could even watch it on YouTube. YouTube, Apple TV, Fandango, Tubi, and Netflix. It's on Netflix? Interesting. Let me pull up the book. Unless you guys I had to refresh it. It's such a good book. I cannot wait until we get the part about Brian and their relationship. Hold please as I refresh my screen. So we left off on okay. $17. You guys want me to keep going, or you want me to or do you guys want to move on to Lindsay Clancy? We can go another chapter. I know we're hooked on it. Do you guys want to go to another chapter or leave it? Love this book. I know, right? Here, been listening the whole time. Actually, hi, Abuelita. I will be here. Okay. I was multitasking, coming in and out. Okay. Well, yeah, because it's already almost 2-hour lives. I'm done for whatever. Yeah, let's continue tomorrow. I'll have to change the title. But we can do tomorrow. So we'll start 17. Okay, so we read 8 chapters. That's pretty long. Oh, Nene's like, yes, please continue. We'll continue tomorrow. Yeah. We left off on chapter 17. So I'll schedule the live after Lindsay Clancy tonight. Let me make sure I write this down. Hayden. We'll continue tomorrow. I promise. I'll schedule it. It'll be the 3rd live. Definitely please make sure you tap that like button. RIP Hayden. It's such a good book. I can't wait to finish all of it. We are not even halfway. Oh yeah. We're almost halfway through it. So it's not very long. I think we can probably get it done in another, maybe I'll schedule more time for it. Probably, hopefully tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then Friday we'll schedule a longer live. But it shouldn't take us too long to read it. If you guys like the book readings, I also did a book reading on the Brian Koberger book, the James Patterson, that is under a Brian Koberger playlist. We read that one, and we have also read JLR's book, which is ridiculous, in the Mini Frivolous Lawsuits. We also did a book reading on that. So if you like the book readings, you'll enjoy those. But we'll continue with Kenzie trial tomorrow and Hayden book. We need to get caught up on Lindsay Clancy. So if you are following the Lindsay Clancy case, please leave your notifications on. I shall be back in a little bit to cover Lindsay. I appreciate you guys being here for the reading. That was amazing, Millie. Thank you. I hope I read okay for you guys and not too fast, because I am a fast reader, but I'm trying to slow it down a bit. Okay. All right. Well, I'll see you guys in a little bit for Lindsay Clancy. Please make sure to leave a like, and also shout out to all the replay viewers. I'm going to try to get to members only today or tomorrow. I wanted to do it today, but there's a lot of true crime, so we must try to stay caught up on everything. Anyways, I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you for being here. Bye.